name is Christine Pebbles. I am a registered nurse, and I'm also a graduate student at the University of Nevada, Reno, studying to become a psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner. I also have 4 kids, and over 20 years we have tried to figure out how to best keep them safe online. I decided to make these videos to pass on what I've learned to you. So there'll be 4 15-minute videos, and you can pick and choose which parts you want to watch because they'll be time-stamped below. So if you already know about software, skip over that. If you already know about hardware, skip over that. And you can watch these videos whenever you want, in the comfort of your own home or at work, whenever you have time. The first video will be about prevention. What is cyberbullying? What is cyber safety? What's the big deal? Does it really happen? And okay, now that I convinced you, what do? So what is cyberbullying? Well, let's start with traditional bullying. Traditional bullying, according to the CDC, is unwanted aggressive behavior that is part of a power imbalance that is repeated over time. If 2 kids are just arguing, that's not necessarily cyberbullying. If it's a 6'2" 7th grader and a tiny little 2nd grader, that's bullying, because it's a power imbalance. If it's repeated over time, that's bullying. Lastly, there needs to be harm caused by this bullying. That means it could be physical harm, like bruises that you see, psychological harm, like causing anxiety or fear, social harm, such as alienation, or educational harm, like the kid is now so scared they don't want to go to school. Cyberbullying is like traditional bullying. The only difference is it uses technology. So it could be internet, social media, texting, email, photos, videos, anything using electronics. So when did it all start? Well, in 1991, the internet became public. In 2004, Bill Belzy created the term cyberbullying because it started to become a problem. In 2007, smartphones were introduced, and in 2011, psychiatric illnesses began to increase. And as time went on, in 2015, it got worse because 92% of the youth in America said they owned a smartphone. So what's the big deal about cyberbullying? Well, it's what we call a sinister type aggression, meaning they can do it kind of in secret. They have a type of anonymity or physical distance, meaning you don't always know who it is, and they're not right in front of your face. So because they're not face to face with you, they can't see the reaction that they cause. They can't see the crying. They can't see the fear. They can't see the anxiety. Therefore, they kind of escalate it. They keep going because they don't see the consequences of what they're doing. And the worst part is, these kids are vulnerable to this 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, globally. Just because a video gets taken down doesn't mean that 10,000 people haven't already seen it. It doesn't mean that the damage hasn't already been done. And the last thing is, they're no longer safe at home. It used to be with traditional bullying. If you were getting bullied at school, you go home, and at least most of the time, you were safe there. With cyberbullying, you're not even safe at home. You're not safe anywhere. So one of the other problems is there's a crossover. So what do I mean by that? Well, studies have found that if kids are involved in traditional bullying, meaning they could be either the perpetrators or the ones that started it, or the victims, doesn't matter, they almost always cross over to also being cyberbullies. So, in a study in Australia, they studied 10,000 children, and they found that 95% of those kids that were involved in traditional bullying also were involved with cyberbullying. And to add insult to injury, the lines become blurred between the perpetrators and the victims. Someone cyberbullies this person, now this person gets upset, and they cyberbully the other person, and it goes back and forth and creates this vicious circle. So it's not only becoming a big deal in America, it's becoming a big deal around the world. Microsoft did this fancy study in 2018 and looked at all the information from around the world about cyberbullying and bullying. What they found was in Denmark, Sweden, and Wales, even though they actually have higher usage, meaning higher internet usage, higher electronic usage, they actually had a lower prevalence of cyberbullying than us. Why? Well, in 1983, Norway implemented the first anti-bullying program, and in the next 20 years, a lot of other European nations started to follow. Although the United States has a lot of anti-bullying programs, there's none that are standardized and there's none that are national, because schools are facing a lot of pressure, a lot of time pressures, money pressures, staff pressures, and this is just not on the list. However, the good news is we as parents actually have more of an impact to stop these things than the school ever could have. And how do we do that? I'm going to tell you. Studies show the best time to address cyberbullying is in the later grades of elementary school and middle school. So what is a threat and why is it such a big deal? Well, younger and younger kids are accessing the internet. Almost 78% of kids aged 6 through 9 use the internet on a regular basis. And they're getting younger and younger. And this population that I'm talking about has actually never known a world without the internet. So, I'm sure you've seen a kid walking around in Target with the phone in front of their face, or sitting in the cart with the phone in front of their face. They're becoming younger and younger. The problem is that those little kids are actually meeting people face to face. It's not always just the teenagers. Little kids are also meeting people face to face that they met online, strangers online. I put a link below so you can watch a video of an experiment that someone did and posted. It happens. Trust me. So who does this cyberbullying? If you've never heard of it, who are these people? Well, studies have found that usually males in grades 8 and higher bully more. They use it to establish dominance, big shocker, and to achieve status. Females tend to cyberbully and bully more in 5th to 8th grade. What's even worse is studies have found that any kids or adolescents that identify as homosexual or transgender or transsexual or anything else other than heterosexual are actually bullied more, 10 to 71% more. I live in Reno, and in 2018, a young adolescent took her life because of cyberbullying. So if you think it doesn't happen, it does. There have also been 25 fatal school shootings since Columbine in 1999, and some of them have actually been linked to bullying and cyberbullying. On puresite.com, there are way too many stories of kids who felt so sad and alone that they took their own lives. A particular example from familyorbit.com talks about a 10-year-old girl, 10, who hung herself with her own scarf in her closet because of cyberbullying. Okay, now I scared you. What do? There's lots of different software apps that you can use to protect your kids. A lot of them are free, like iPhone Screen Time or Google Family Link. It allows you to set limits and boundaries and parameters, and allows you to see what activity is going on. I personally use Custodio. I like it a lot. It has everything that I need. It's very easy to use, and I actually get daily emails of what my kids were doing, how long they were on this website, how long they were on that website, and any websites that were blocked. I love it because it can do lots of different things. So what should you look for? Well, these are the things that I looked for. Daily time limits. So are they supposed to be on there 3 hours a day, 4 hours a day, 5 hours a day? You can set that. And when they get over that time, their phone shuts down. It's brilliant. And then there's restricted times. So in other words, do you want them to be on their phone at 6 a.m.? If not, restrict that time. If you want their phone to shut off at 10, you can do that. There's also web filters. Do you want them to be on certain sites? What sites or keywords do you want to avoid? You can set those. Social media filters. You can set those as well. Can they be on certain social media apps? If they can't, even in Custodio, which I like, I can set time limits for specific apps. So if I only want them to be on TikTok for 30 minutes, even if they haven't spent their allotted times, after 30 minutes, TikTok will shut off. That's a great option. There's location tracking, where you can see where they are throughout the day at specific intervals, every 15 minutes, every hour, up to you. There's also something called geofencing, which is great for some kids. When they go out of a parameter, let's say half a mile from your house or half a mile from school, it will alert you. If you need that, look for that. There's also panic buttons in some of these apps, like Custodio, where if they feel threatened or unsafe, they can hit the panic button and it will send an immediate message to you with their location. Make sure that the website has plenty of information and you can see screenshots of the app. Better yet, if they have a demo, so you can see it in action like spicy.com, the better. You need to know what you're buying before you buy it. There's a lot of free trials with these apps, but beware. The free trials sometimes ask you for credit card numbers and it just charges you after a certain amount of days, and some don't. And in some apps like familytime.com, the free trial is great, but if they offer you a discounted rate for the year and you click that, now your free trial is completely negated and you can't back out. Lastly, know how many devices you need covered. So if you have 5 phones, make sure that app and your membership covers 5 devices. If you have phones and computers, make sure that app is compatible for all devices. Can it be on a Kindle? Can it be on an iPad? Can it be on a Mac or a Windows? And can it be on your phone? And do you have to pay for each device? Or are 10 devices included? Make sure you look at things like that. Figure out what you need and make sure you get what you need. There's also hardware, like different routers with parental monitoring and parental controls. I personally use Linksys Develop. I love it. I can shut things down immediately with the press of a button. If I don't want them watching TV in the living room anymore because they've watched too much TV for the day and they have homework, I just push a button, shuts it down. It's wonderful. I can also set time limits on the hardware. So for the kids that get around the software on their phones, this is kind of a backup, a plan B. I can also shut it down from my router. Disney Circle also does similar things. So figure out again what you need and then buy a device that fits those needs. Lastly, there's physical monitoring. Yes, old-fashioned physical monitoring. Be in the same room with your child when they're using this device. Make sure you know what they're using. Don't allow devices in their rooms or in corners of the house where you can't see what's on that screen. Pay attention to what they're paying attention to. Put computers in shared places, not in the bedrooms, so everyone can monitor and keep everyone safe in the family. And use daily and time hourly limits. How much time should they be on there? Video number 2 will tell you that. So last is how to keep your kids safe on social media. Because they spend so much time on it, that's one of the biggest questions. The key is to know what your kids are doing and to know what they're on. There's a link below for a free printable password journal. Take that out and discuss it with your kids and tell them you can have the app, but I have to know the username and the password for your safety. Remember that having a cell phone is a luxury. It's not a right, as my best friend says. So that's a good way to keep track of it. Let's keep in mind, and I want to go ahead and say that I am not perfect. There are some days when we're really good and we stick to the time limits and it's wonderful. And there's some days when I'm tired, when they're sick, when things are going on. I mean, I'm in graduate school, things get busy, right? And sometimes we go over the time limits. You're not going to be perfect every day. Please don't beat yourself up for that. Do it in baby steps, little steps at a time. If they're on the internet for 8 hours a day, go down to 6, and then down to 5, and then down to 4, and then to 3, and then to 2, and then to 1. And then discuss other things that they can do when they're not using electronics. Just baby steps. If I did it all together in one shot, I'd be locked in a closet, duct taped somewhere, because there would have been a revolt in my house. So just be realistic about the limitations and expectations, okay? This is just kind of a guideline. Once again, thank you for watching the video. Comment below with things that you liked about the video and maybe things that I didn't go over that you're curious about. Also, video number 2, there'll be a link down below as well. That one goes over ongoing monitoring. So you installed everything, now what do you do? It goes over the crafty kids, how do you get around those who try to get around your apps and your software? What are the time limits? What's that magic number for them to be on electronics to keep their risk down? What are the dangerous apps that you should know about and be aware of? How do you find them if they're hidden? What if it's already happening? How will you know? What are the signs and symptoms? What are the signs and symptoms of depression and anxiety and suicidal thoughts? That's really important. And how, lastly, is to teach them how to help themselves. So that's video number 2. Thanks for joining me.